I feel like it's important to introduce myself and tell you my history with shamanism and particularly sacred fire and working with sacred fire, so you know where I'm coming from and what has informed my relationship with sacred fire. So it all began in the 70s when my parents started going to Native American ceremonies such as Sweat Lodge. They went up to Sundance in Wyoming. And most of all, they started going to all-night peyote ceremonies in a teepee. And these were simply referred to as meetings. So if you hear me refer to a meeting, you'll know what I'm talking about. And so when they were ready to have a child, they did a meeting to ask for a child. And sure enough, 8 months later, I was born. And just a week after I was born, they did another meeting, and a Arapaho elder named Gregory Blackburn gave me my spirit name, Neahi Jabasat, which means walking bird. I was premature, so I only weighed 4 pounds. And so Gregory held me in one hand over the fire and called my name to the 4 directions. And so from that very beginning, I was being held over that sacred fire and basically baptized by it. So I have that really deep connection with fire, I think, thanks to those ceremonies. And as I grew up, we went to a lot of these ceremonies. We would, as little kids, just sleep behind our parents because it goes all night. But always at some point in the night, they would wake up the kids and have them come up and get blessed in front of the fire. And those blessings meant so much to me. I would carry them like a spiritual ace up my sleeve on the playground and through school, and felt like no bully could touch me because I had this secret, special blessing from the fire and power from the fire. So as I grew up, my dad's mom passed away when I was, maybe 3 or 4. And when she passed away, one of my dad's good friends was a peyote man and led those meetings. And his name was Junior, or Alden. And he had a very special relationship with fire. And when my grandma passed away, Junior's mom, named Bertha, adopted my dad as a son because he had just lost his mom. And so Junior became my uncle and Bertha became my grandma. And we started doing meetings with them almost every solstice and equinox. And Junior had such a special relationship with fire. When I was older, maybe 10 or so, my dad broke his arm falling from a ladder building our house, and it just wouldn't heal up. The bone would not fuse, even though there was a plate holding it together. So we did a meeting, and Junior said, "I'm going to weld your bone back together." And he took a hot coal from the fire and put it in his mouth and blew on his arm and welded it back together. With no harm to himself. He was drinking hot coffee the next morning. And so he had a very superhuman relationship with fire and used it for healing in that way. Throughout my childhood and then into my 20s, I would go up and do meetings with Junior and his family. And that's when I started to really work with sacred fire. I would sometimes sit across from the firekeeper across the door, and so I was the helper. And so I remember asking Junior, I was nervous. It's very nerve-wracking to work with the fire in those ceremonies because everyone's watching you. It really is the center of the ceremony. And so I was always nervous. And so I asked him, do you have any advice of how to work with it? And he said, in classic Native fashion, "I can't teach you anything. I'm still learning myself." But then he said, you have to just talk to Grandpa Fire. And that's another thing that throughout my childhood, the fire was always referred to as Grandpa. And he said, Grandpa can teach you everything. Just listen to him. And the only thing that I can say is never do anything half-ass with Grandpa Fire. Never just go halfway. Work with him until the fire looks good, and then you can sit down. And then when you go up to work with him again, work with him until it looks good. Another big teacher for me was my dad, and we always had a sweat lodge in our backyard, and we would just do little family sweats, which also involves heating the rocks with the sacred fire. And that's where my dad taught me a lot about working with Grandpa Fire. And he would say, don't poke the fire with a stick, which a lot of people do. They just poke, or they'll throw logs in kind of from a distance. And so he said, treat the fire very gently. Grandpas don't want things thrown at them, and grandpas don't want to be poked with a stick. You got to massage the fire. And so that was another lesson that came through my dad in how to work with sacred fire. So then in my 20s, I met Anna and the Stevens, and I fell in love with Anna, and we got married, and I started going on their annual pilgrimage to the sacred deserts in Mexico. And every ceremony I attended, I was the fire keeper. And that's actually where I learned the most about working with the spirit of fire. And so that was just many times, many ceremonies. Working with the fire over the course of the entire night is really what drilled it into my spirit and really developed that relationship. And so that's how it goes, is that this is an ongoing relationship, and it only happens, like any relationship, over consistent time spent. Then that brings us to just this last year. My dad actually passed away. He had Parkinson's, and he struggled, and we couldn't do ceremony with him for many years because his body wouldn't hold up to it. So when he passed away, his spirit showed up to me very strong, and it's been very present for me, encouraging me to do ceremony. So I set up a sweat lodge in my yard, and it's great because my dad, his body for the last 10 years was not able to crawl into a sweat. But now that he's a spirit, he can attend and teach me in a spirit kind of way. And he's been really opening me to the spirit world and communicating more with spirits such as the spirit of fire. So that's my history with sacred fire.